walking a little too much with a fixed enough mindset, with a healed enough mindset. If we only present what looks put together, we never give God access to heal what needs healing. I wonder who here has company coming over their house after service? Who's hosting today? Anyone hosting something? We got a small hand. Doesn't want anyone to see it, all right? We're hosting, all right? Who's going over someone else's house today? So a bunch of moochers in Dover. I hope the other locations had some more hosts, some people who are a little more hospitable. But, it's funny because this year is the first year we're not doing a Sunday Easter plan. We did it yesterday. We went over our uncle's house and spent time with Haley's side of the family. And we don't have anything to host after church on Sunday. And I'm thankful for it because I don't have to do the pre-company clean. Like the pre-company clean, it takes so much effort. You got to make this place look like a magazine, Better Homes and Garden magazine picture. Remove all signs of life. No one lives here. It is just beautiful all the time. This is how it looks with two kids, right? That's what it feels like we have to do every time there's company. And I have something that Haley hates that I do it. Haley hates that it exists, but I have a closet, all right? It's not my prayer closet, all right? It's my crap closet, all right? When I need to clean all signs of life, pick up everything you need. I open a closet and I throw it in, I close it, and that's a clean enough mentality. It's clean enough for people to come over. That closet has been on my to-do list. Haley's asked me to do it for a few years now. And it'll get a little cleaner to make room. I'll throw a bunch of stuff away to make room for the new pile of stuff when company comes over. And I have this clean enough mindset when it comes to picking up for company. And, I just think through, I don't know why. That's just how I function. And I think about it, and maybe it stems from a little bit of my childhood, all right? As I think through, growing up, this kind of clean enough mindset, we would get nice things, and then as they would slowly start to deteriorate, you kind of you have something like this. It's a nice vase. It's completely shattered at our house, but as long as we display it this way, we have nice things. My family, we had come into some money. I don't know why. I don't know how. But we came into some money. Now, it wasn't an inheritance. I think we sued someone. I'm pretty sure. But we came into some money. And for some reason, my dad thought, you know what? This duplex that we're renting needs to be a Victorian duplex that we're renting. And he bought Victorian decorations for our home. White furniture. We had 3 little kids. They asked my mom if someone's wondering. He's told this story before. White furniture. We had 3 kids. All this different Victorian. It was just this interesting theme. The furniture, they didn't have sectionals, so it was custom ordered for a rented duplex. It was custom ordered. And one of the things that I knew he bought, I have it in my memory, these little porcelain cherubs that were placed. All right, confirmed by my mom. My siblings and I were all racking our brain. We're like, did we make this up? These porcelain cherubs. We had 3 kids and all these porcelain things around. And you know what we did? As we played with them and would break them, you just kind of turn it. It's a nice cherub now. Another piece would break. Here's the cherub's behind, but that's still put together, right? We just keep it looking as good as possible. And that was fixed enough. It was fixed enough for what we were doing. And I think about our mindset, and even our mindset as we walk through church. How many other areas do we apply the clean enough or fixed enough mindset to our own lives? We have our own appearance that we're putting forward that looks great. It looks pristine. And as people get to know us, we're always walking in a way that would not reveal the brokenness that we might have. We get clean enough. We get fixed enough. And I think it stems into those who have even been following Jesus for a long time. We can really look like a great Christian. We can be healed enough. But there's something missing in our walk. And then we hear about going to church. We hear about the love of Jesus. We hear about his Holy Spirit wanting to come and fill us. He wants to pour into us. He wants to make sure that we are full of his joy, of his peace. And as we hear the word and we work through it, we receive his blessing, and then we can't hold it. We receive his love, we ask for his love, but we can't contain it. And we leave church and we leave our walk as Christians wondering, why is the love of God not good enough for me? Why is the love of God not putting me together? Why is it not feeling the way Scripture says it should feel? And I just think we're walking a little too much with a fixed enough mindset, with a healed enough mindset. If we only present what looks put together, we never give God access to heal what needs healing. And we approach God the same way. We approach him and only want to show the good side. We think we can hide from God. And that keeps us from being able to fully receive the love from him. See, Jesus never wanted you to hide yourself. He never wanted you to hide yourself from him, from those around you. He never had that as a plan. When we were created to be on display. We were created to reflect the glory of God. But in the garden, we realized that our default, when we're imperfect, is to hide. In the story of Adam and Eve, when they sin and they hear God coming, their gut reaction is to hide themselves. Is to hide, I just don't, God's so good, I'm not good, I'm just gonna hide right now. And you know, we laugh at them, we think like that's kind of silly, how do you hide from God? But we do it. We do it in everyday living when we refuse to show him or show others the broken pieces of us. So here's the idea that I just want to make sure we leave knowing today, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about it as well, but if you're taking notes, I'd like you to write this down. Your scars are not meant to be hidden in shame, but displayed as grace. Displayed as grace. When people see the scars of what you've walked through, they should know the redemptive power that Jesus has done in your life. In this story, as we're celebrating today, the resurrection story, you know, Jesus himself didn't hide the redemptive work and what happened to him as he went through the redemptive work he did with us. He didn't hide. He knew that his scars would be proof of what he did. He knew that his scars would be proof. When we think of Jesus coming from the grave, we think of this glorified person glowing in white. We see the paintings of these perfect images of who this man is, but we fail to realize that for all eternity, he's walking around with his scars. He's walking around showing the redemptive work. This is what sin did to me. This is what sin did. This is what I allowed sin to do to me. He walks around and he wants to prove his work through his own scars. As we read through this scripture, we're going to read in John 20, verses 19 through 29. Now, he had just died. He had been placed in a tomb. And this is not what the disciples expected to happen. It's not really the story they were anticipating. They thought he would be perfect and he would show up and he would overthrow the government, that he would come and he would reign and it would be a happy ending for everyone. Well, it didn't look like the happy ending, which if you came to our Good Friday service, that's kind of what happened. we paused for a minute and realized, man, isn't it amazing that it wasn't the plan we had? It's amazing that it was the plan that God had. And so, as they're waiting and hiding, this is what happened. That Sunday evening, the disciples were meeting behind locked doors because they were afraid of the Jewish leaders. To them, they had already won. They had won already. Suddenly, Jesus was standing there among them. "Peace be with you," he said. And as he spoke, he showed them the wounds in his hands and his side. They were filled with joy when they saw the Lord. Again, he said, "Peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, so I am sending you." Then he breathed on them and said, "Receive the Holy Spirit. If you forgive anyone's sins, they are forgiven. If you do not forgive them, they are not forgiven." One of the 12 disciples named Thomas, nicknamed the twin, was not with the others when Jesus came. They came. Now, they did all of their ministry together. They walked through all the miracles that Jesus did. They went and proclaimed the miracles, proclaimed the good news. So you'd think at this point, their word meant something to each other. That what they said would mean something to each other. And they told him, "We have seen the Lord." But he replied, "I won't believe it until I see the nail wounds in his hands and put my fingers into them and place my hand into the wound in his side." 8 days later, the disciples were together again, and this time Thomas was with them. The doors were locked. They're still terrified. But suddenly, as before, Jesus was standing among them. "Peace be with you," he said. Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here. Look at my hands. Put your hand into my wound in my side. Don't be faithless any longer. Believe." "My Lord and my God," Thomas exclaimed. Then Jesus told him, "You believe because you have seen me. Blessed are those who believe without seeing me." I think it's an interesting story that Jesus knew each time, right? When he appeared the first time, he didn't wait for someone who was doubting before he showed his scars. So Jesus knew. So when we think of Jesus and we think perfection, we need to realize that Jesus came and said, look at what I carried. Look at the grace that I had for you. And we think of him as unblemished, and we think of him like this is how it has to work. We think of it like how we clean our house. No signs of life, no signs of imperfection in Jesus, no signs of hurt, no signs of pain. And what we end up doing is thinking that's how we're supposed to live too. No sign of imperfection, no sign of pain. We don't let anyone see as we're walking with Jesus. They can't see that I am hiding something. They can't see that there's an aspect of my life that I don't want anyone to know. Because Jesus was so perfect, we're called to be like Jesus, so I need to be perfect. And so we start living our life a little bit like this. Just always put together, but never showing our hurt. And never receiving the love that Jesus has for us. But his plan is to show his glory through you. His plan is to show how good he is through your imperfections. Paul, who wrote a good amount of the New Testament, shared this. He was suffering because he had something that was reminding him of his flesh. He had something that was poking at him. And we don't exactly know what it is. They describe it as a tormenting spirit. They work through, like, there's something. Paul's getting reminded continuously. And he said he prayed and prayed that he could take away this problem. God, just take it away. I don't want to be reminded of this. I don't want to be stuck in my sin. Just take it away. 3 times Paul prayed to just remove it. And then finally, God said this. Each time he said, "My grace is all you need. My power works best in weakness." So now, Paul writes, "I am glad to boast about my weakness, so that the power of Christ can work through me. That's why I take pleasure in my weakness and in the results, and in the insults, that's bad. In the insults, hardships, persecutions, troubles that I suffer for Christ. For when I am weak, then I am strong." it's my prayer as a pastor that you all would receive the love that Jesus has for you, that you'd receive the peace and the joy that he has for you. I don't want you to leave church and saying, man, I tried, I leaned into it, I felt a little bit of something, I felt his love, and then just back to normal on Monday. You know, you didn't not receive him, but I think you're leaking what he's giving you. You're refusing to keep it in, and you're letting it leak out, and you're not retaining the love that he has for you. And there's nothing you can do to patch it, right? We think about, we can duct tape this sucker together. We can buy some Flex Seal. We can get it to just stick and never leak again. But there's nothing we can do to patch ourselves together. But we have to go to God and let him do that repair work. There's an author, C.S. Lewis, that writes a bunch of amazing Christian literature that we could learn from. But he also wrote some fictional literature. Anyone know Chronicles of Narnia? They've read that book, heard of that book. It's an amazing book. But he wrote this series, Chronicles of Narnia. And what's amazing is, because he was such a theologian, what he ended up doing is he would sneak in these Christian ideas and try and get you to understand them from a different angle. Now, there's a character in here named Eustace. He thinks he's all that. He thinks he's perfect. In fact, he never shows a weakness. When he gets scared and the thing that scared him passes, he's like, I was never scared. I was never scared. I never had that problem. You had that problem, right? He was holding every ounce of himself like, no, I'm fine. You're the problem, and he wouldn't address it. So Eustace, as he goes through this journey, he's a selfish kid. He's a spoiled brat. He's never addressed the problems in his life. He sees this treasure, and he knows he shouldn't take it, but his selfishness causes him to sin. It causes him to do exactly what he wasn't supposed to do. And this is a fictional story, and so Eustace, as he steals the treasure, he turns into a dragon. He turns into this beastly monster, because he was just refusing to do what Aslan, who's really the God character, was asking him to do. At first, he's like, I feel pretty good. I'm a dragon. I just did what I wanted. I feel great. And as he kept going, he realized he didn't want to be a dragon. He was alone. He wasn't who he was made to be. And he starts weeping, and he just wants to be a boy again. And he keeps trying to tear his own scales off. He keeps scales off. He keeps trying to do it in his own power. But then God comes along. In this story, it's Aslan. And he says, I can take this off you. I can take this off you. And so if you're walking and you say, all right, there's a hidden side to me that I'm scared to show God, and I want to fix it. The problem is what we have to do first. There's the completed piece that we want to fit, that we want to bring in, that we want to duct tape or Flex Seal or make it happen. But you know what has to happen to make that fit is we need to complete the break so that we can put ourselves together in the right way, so that God can put us together in the right way. This is how Eustace describes it, and I think this is why we're scared to walk through this. He said, I was afraid of his claws, I can tell you, but I was pretty nearly desperate now. So I lay flat down on my back and just let him do it. The very first tear he made was so deep that I thought it had gone right into my heart. And when he began pulling the skin off, it hurt worse than anything I've ever felt. The only thing that made me able to bear it was just the pleasure of feeling the stuff peel off. You know, if you've ever picked a scab of a sore place, it hurts like a bilio, but it is such fun to see it coming away. Well, he peeled the beastly stuff right off. And just as I thought I'd done it myself 3 times, only it hadn't hurt as bad. And there it was, lying on the grass, only ever so much thicker and darker and more knobbly looking than the others had been. And there I was, as smooth and soft as peeled switch, and smaller than I had ever been. Then he caught hold of me, and I didn't like that much, for I was tender underneath now that I had only skin on, and threw me in the water. It smarted like anything, but only for a moment. After that, it became perfectly delicious, and as soon as I started swimming and splashing, I found that all the pain had gone from my arm, and then I saw why. I turned into a boy again. The process of being made whole can hurt. But you have to realize the pain of being made whole is not what the enemy would make it seem. The enemy wants to convince you it's going to hurt worse than staying hidden, than staying untrue to who you are. The enemy wants to convince you it hurts worse, and yeah, it hurts. But the joy of being free will melt away that moment of pain when you reveal yourself. Until you let Jesus redeem you, you will always be limiting your own capacity to receive God's love. He's giving you love every day, and so you can choose to do it the hard way and spend every moment receiving his love, which I'd encourage you to do. But if you're leaking that love through an area that you won't let him heal, that you won't go to him and let him heal, you'll never be filled with the love of God. See, there's an idea, right? We said it at the beginning. You were designed to be on display. And Jesus, when he was on display, showed off his scars. In reading a book by Dr. Caroline Leaf, she used this analogy of kintsugi art, where they take a broken, priceless vase that they pause, and when they glue it together, they don't buy clear glue. They don't put a little porcelain in there that matches so you never see it. They actually pour in a whole bunch of gold powder. We have a picture of it. They pour in a bunch of gold powder. You know what? They show off the damage that happened to it, to show off the art of when it's restored. Your story, whatever you've walked through, is an opportunity for you to show the grace of God. You don't need to hide it in shame. You display it as a grace, and people see this redemptive work that he's done in your life. I'll tell you what, the longer I stayed fake, the harder it was to love Jesus. The harder it was to feel like I had any right to be near him. And I don't want to come up here and preach and make you believe that I'm some perfect Christian that's figured it all out and you need to learn from me. I want you to understand that I am broken, that I need healing daily, that I needed healing. I thought for a minute, I don't know a lot of you, and I've shared my story a little bit, but I thought I would maybe introduce myself to you so you could understand how imperfect your pastors are. My name's Jeremy Arsenault, and while I preached the love of God and forgiveness, I hated my family members, and I never spoke to them. I did not want anything to do with them. While I would sing about and share about the freedom of God, I was hiding a pornography addiction from my wife for years. I am selfish. I am self-protecting. And you know what? I was convinced by the enemy, if anyone finds out how broken you are, you're out. No church is going to want you around. No one's going to care for you. Your wife, yeah, she's going to leave you. You will lose everything. And I was convinced that the pain of changing was going to be too much to bear. And suddenly, God started to put a pressure on me and started to say, listen, I'm going to start making the pain of staying the same get a little bit more. I want you to understand the pain of changing is going to work. And so sometimes we wait until the pain of staying the same is too much to bear. But God's right here, right now. I don't want you to walk through what I've walked through. And so what do you need to display to God? And realize you're not doing the healing. You're not doing the forgiving, but you're letting God work on you. Living that unhidden life is the only way to display his full glory in yours.